Hello to everyone. Mohammed Faisal, Francis, Alexis. I will be presenting what will be my future PhD project at KIT, and this is how it will would go. Uh, First of all, I will tell you a little bit about what the Eurofusion Engineering Grant is, because I think it's a good opportunity for you to get to know different sources of funding. And then I will jump into the inner fuel cycle for demo and the metal foil pump, what super-permeation is, and some conclusions at the end, of course. Well, first I studied the energy engineering degree at Universidad Politécnica in Madrid. I came in contact with the fusion initiative. I thought it would be a good way to tackle the energy problem, so I joined the EP Fusion Master. There I did my master thesis at CIEMAT in hydrogen permeation, hydrogen multi-isotopic permeation in metals. And that gave me a chance to come in contact with the people at KIT who needed someone with expertise in hydrogen permeation, but also who knew a little bit about plasmas. And they suggested me to take a EEG. What's an EEG? It's an Eurofusion Engineering Grant. There are funding opportunities in the medium term, so about 3 years funding, for young engineers or physicists. Every year, around 20 grants are given, and they are strongly related to certain research areas or topics that the people from Eurofusion consider are a priority. How do you do, how to proceed? Well, first you have to find a grant based on a topic that you are interested in, of course. If you find that, you should get in touch with the project leader associated with the grant and tell them about your ideas. They will tell you what they expect from you and that kind of thing. If those things match and everything goes well, they will guide you through the enrollment procedure and the application procedure. Usually, the EEGs are the base for a PhD contract, but it's not necessary. You can actually have a regular researcher contract with this. Well, and now that I have explained you this, we'll go to the science. Okay, I present you now the inner fuel cycle. It's a very simplified scheme for a fusion device. In this case, it's an ITER-like inner fuel cycle because it has a single loop concept. Therefore, all the deuterium and tritium fuel mixture goes from the diverter through the tritium plant and it's pumped back to the torus. With this concept, we cannot upscale towards a demo relevant size. Why? Because the tritium inventories are just too high and the tritium plant is oversized. And the tritium plant, of course, is the one that controls most of the tritium inventory. That's why the KIT developed the DIR concept. It stands for Direct Internal Recycling. What does this do? This concept, it's basically a bypass that separates part of the fuel, deuterium and tritium fuel mixture from the diverter and pumps it straight back to the torus without going through the tritium plant. With this scheme, the tritium inventory is reduced and so is the tritium residence mean time. Here, two graphs that I want to look at. The first one is the lower right graph, and it is a measurement of how the conversion coefficient is improved according to the separation factor. So the separation fraction was considered that could be around an 0.9. That was a reasonable design design target, and we see in the graph that for an 0.9 they can achieve improvement rates of about sixfold. That means that if you have a conversion rate, tritium conversion rate of 1, you will end up with a 6%. All right. The conversion rate is a product in between the burn-up fraction, so the amount of fuel that burns in the plasma, and the fueling efficiency, the amount of fuel that reaches the core of the plasma. These factors are considered 1% in the predictions for ITER and demo, and about 0.5 for fueling efficiency in big devices. What does this mean? This means the conversion rate is about 0.5%. And now if you look to the upper left graph, you can see that for a residence time of, let's say, 6 hours, we end up with a tritium inventory of in between 40 and 50 kilos. This is too much in every sense. But considering this 0.9 separation fraction and the conversion efficiency improvement of 6, you end up with a tritium conversion rate of 3%. And there's even more improvement. Why? Because the DIR concept reduces also the mean residence time. So you jump in between the curves. So from the blue curve of the 6 hours to the orangey curve of 1 hour, at the tritium conversion rate of 3%, it's about 10 kilograms of tritium inventory. That is totally feasible for demo. Now, this is what the demo fuel cycle really looks like. So, of course, I will not be able to stop and analyze every system because it will just take forever. But it's a very nice picture. It's a very nice image here, where you can see the 3 loops. The first loop, the most inner one, is the DIR loop that I just explained. What is called the inner loop takes most of the rest of the deuterium and tritium fuel mixture, and then you have the outer loop that deals with the tritium from the deuteriation system and from the blankets. Now, the separation unit, it's fundamental in this concept, okay? And only a metal foil pump can perform this work because of the low working pressures that we find right after the diverter. Now, this metal foil pump works on the effect of superpermeation, and this effect has been proved at the Hermes setup at KIT, and it was a first step towards relevant experimental results. But because of its low technical readiness, it needs further research. Even more so, the development of such a pump was marked as a demo key design integration issue by the people of Eurofusion. These key DII are what they call the hateful eight, in a sign of how important they are and what a pain in the butt they are. All right. Now, I will go now on the superpermeation, but first I will give you some insight into regular permeation. Permeation of hydrogen in metals entails the transition from molecular hydrogen to atomic hydrogen and vice versa, because hydrogen can only permeate as an atom in metal lattices. Now, this means that there are dissociation and recombination processes at the surfaces. In this usual regime is what they call a diffusion limited permeation. Superpermeation, on the other hand, is based on a high energy surface barrier that prevents absorption and desorption processes there, and this makes the process surface limited. This allows for pumping of the hydrogen, for a pumping effect. And this effect occurs only for hydrogen, only for the element hydrogen, therefore allows for the separation from other elements such as helium or other gases inside the tokamak. Now, the driven force is the atomized and energized hydrogen here. so it can suppress the barrier, the surface barrier, and normally permeate downstream. Now, here is the comparison between the energy profiles for permeation in the blue curve and superpermeation in the blue curve and the red curve included there. Now, the zero energy corresponds to the energy of a hydrogen atom in a hydrogen molecule, in an H2 molecule. And you can see that there is a surface covering the surface of the metal, so basically a coating that inhibits the use of valence electrons from the metal in the dissociation process. That is the catalyzer of hydrogen dissociation in metal surfaces. And in order to use this effect in a metal foil pump, we could talk about two different components. The first one is at the left side. These linings there, well, they are the energetic hydrogen source. In the case of the metal foil pump, it will be a plasma source. But this will be subject to a different study. My PhD will be focused mainly on the membrane itself and its study. Now, the selection of the selectivity of superpermeation is very important, and a simple way to understand why this selectivity comes in terms plainly on the size of the particle. So the hydrogen is the only element that when it loses one of his electrons, it's reduced to a nuclear size, because you only get the nucleus of the hydrogen. It could be a proton in the case of hydrogen, a proton and one neutron in the case of deuterium, and so forth and so on. But it's nuclear size. Therefore, one could expect that this nucleus, this nuclei, will have a similar permeability as another object of the similar size. For example, a neutron, a plain neutron. Now, even the helium ions are several orders of magnitude bigger than the hydrogen ions. Therefore, only one proton. And as an example here, we have the case of tantalum. Tantalum is a group 5 metal. Those are the kind of elements that will be used as the membrane, as the separation membrane in a metal foil pump. And the upper limit of the permeability, the upper limit of the permeation comes in terms of permeability. In the case of helium and hydrogen, the comparison using the permeability, we see that the fluxes are 28 orders of magnitude difference. Therefore, we can just basically say that the flux of helium is totally negligible in this case. Now, well, the work plan of this project, the skeleton of this project will be divided into 4 parts. The first comes the experimental part. It will be a study of the surface barrier using the Hermes Plus setup that I will introduce afterwards. And along with this, it will come the development of a model, of a theoretical model that will determine the recombination coefficient of the tested membrane materials. Once this is done, the model will be used to simulate the experiments, and comparison of the simulation data and the experimental results will be carried out. Once this model is validated, it will be used in the first engineering design of the metal foil pump. And this is Hermes Plus. Here in this picture is the starting point of this project. Hermes Plus consists on a vacuum chamber where the membranes are placed inside of this chamber. different membrane materials will be tested under different conditions. And for this purpose, we have different energetic hydrogen sources. We have a filament, a ECR plasma, and a collisional plasma. The chamber, as you can see, also includes the microwave waveguides for the collisional plasma source and some magnet inserts for the operation of the ECR. With all these different energetic hydrogen sources, it's a very, very, very flexible setup, as you can imagine. Here you can see the expected pressure range of operation for the metal foil pump, and this is why we need different energetic hydrogen sources. For the lowest pressures, the high vacuum conditions, the filament is the best choice because it also offers the simplest setup. Now, in order to get to the order of magnitude of during pulse activity of the metal foil pump, we included a collisional plasma source, but it doesn't cover the full range because it only goes up to 10 pascals, but we'll have to go up to 0.1 or 1 pascal. Now, that is why they included the possibility of using an ECR plasma to cover the full range of pressure. But this complicates the setup, and it can also produce further damage in the membrane. Now, well, Hermes Plus is already a reality. It's up and running. As you can see in this picture, it has already been built at KIT, and it has produced some very interesting results. It has produced experimental results that could be scaled up to demo relevant hydrogen fluxes. Nevertheless, this is only the first step towards the engineering design of a proper metal foil pump. Now, this is the latest P&ID of Hermes Plus. Very complicated, I know, but this is why we gain such a huge advantage in terms of flexibility, in terms of operation, and how the range of the parameters of the operation parameters was increased. And now finally, well, metal foil pump is a key design integration issue for demo. That means people from Eurofusion are really worried about this topic because the feasibility of the DAR concept depends upon it. If we cannot develop a valid design of a metal foil pump, there is no other technology available, not even close to this, that could perform this work. And therefore there is a twofold aim for this project. The first of all is to accomplish the creation of a proper model that will be able to optimize working conditions for a metal foil pump. And on the other side is the validation of the metal foil pump engineering design itself using this model. Myself, well, I will become a PhD as Eurofusion guarantee, and that will help me to start my own career in the fusion field at the top level. This is it. Thank you for your attention. I hope you learned a little bit about the inner fuel cycle, and any questions will be, well, I will try to answer them. I don't promise anything. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do it the usual way. Please raise your hand in the participants bubble to ask a question. And as I don't see any hands being raised yet, I'll go first. Alex, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you make this argument about the hydrogen atom being, well,
Shrink, yeah.
shrunk in size,
Yeah.
and losing its electron, but then you're sending it towards a metallic surface, and it's supposed to go through this metallic surface. And as I remember, metals have a pretty huge cloud of free roaming electrons.
Yeah.
So how does this argument hold in this case, in which the hydrogen atom, I think, could really reacquire an electron?
Reacquire the electron. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The idea is not, of course, the proton in the case of hydrogen will not permeate as a proton in the metal lattices. The key here is that the proton has sufficient energy to surpass the barrier. It doesn't have to be a proton actually. It just have to be an atom with enough energy to surpass the surface energy barrier. In the case of a proton, it was just an example in order for you to see why is this selectivity feature in the superpermeation effect. It doesn't need to be an ion. Actually, the ionization degree that we are considering in our plasma, it's less than 0.1%. So most of the permeating hydrogen will not be hydrogen ions, but hydrogen atoms, only with enough energy to surpass this first surface barrier, and then normally permeate as regular atoms within the metal lattice.
So what's the main argument for, what's the main, I don't know how to phrase this, I'm sorry.
No problem.
What's the main property that allows the selectivity? What's the difference for the barrier between a hydrogen and a helium? It's not clear to me.
Yeah, okay. The main difference is the what do you call it? Yeah, the how easy the chemistry of hydrogen, because it resembles both a metal and a non-metal, because if it gains one electron, it has the complete electron shell. If it loses one electron, it also gets how you call it, an electron configuration resembling an empty shell. Therefore, chemically speaking, once the hydrogen surpass that energy barrier, it gets very easily chemisorphed in the membrane. Meanwhile, a helium atom, for example, in the case, this is the main element to be separated. The helium atom, even if it's energized by our plasma source, it will not be chemisorphed as easily in the metal lattice as the hydrogen atom, because what stops and what reduces the speed of permeation of hydrogen, the gas permeation from molecular hydrogen towards the metal lattice membrane and to the other side, is the fact that the hydrogen molecule has to be dissociated. That's the stopping step in this process. And if you bypass that process, because you give the energy in advance in form of this plasma, it only needs yeah, it needs less way less energy to be chemisor because it's already in the form of in the atomic form. That was basically the idea.
I think Mohammed has a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alex. I have a couple of questions, one financial and one scientific. The scientific one is, do you have, I know, as far I know, the ITER does not have tritium breeding, and I think also no cycle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there any plan to measure or to do some experiment during ITER operation for testing this kind of membranes or?
Yeah. Actually, during my interview for the EEG at Garching, they actually asked me if this technology, if the metal foil pump, could be used and tested in ITER. Mainly because it's interesting, of course, but also because I've heard people from ITER are not sure whether they could handle all the tritium that they need to handle. And including this DIR concept will reduce the tritium inventory, even if it's in a very very novel configuration. It will reduce the inventory. Therefore, it could be tested. The pressures are adequate. The pressures after the ITER diverter will not be very different from the pressures in the foreseen demo diverter, but there is still a long way for ITER to operate with deuterium and tritium and have burning plasma and therefore reasonable amounts of helium to separate from the fuel mixture.
Okay. I have a question about this grant. You told that it's like 20 PhDs?
It depends on the year. This year, for example, it was 17. But
okay.
Another years were 30. So.
And the finance for the PhD students, it's different from country to country. I mean, for example, if your project will be in Germany, it's different from if your project will be in Spain, or it's like a fixed rate.
It's not a fixed amount. It's not that each EEG it's associated with a certain amount of money. It depends on the project. For example, if you are interested on the topic, you talk to the project leader, and you will start a work program, and they will take care of the financials. Mm-hmm. Basically asking for money for a new setup if you need one, or buying software, the salary.
No, my question regarding the salary or the stipend for the PhD student, not like the whole money for the.
Yeah, regarding the PhD student salary, it depends on the salary in each country.
Okay.
It happens that, for example, at CIEMAT, the PhDs, they don't get more than 1,000 euros there.
Okay.
But the PhD with an EEG grant, they get at least 1,400, 1,500, something like that.
Okay.
All right. For example, me in Germany, I'm getting a little bit more.
So it's combination between like the local salary of the place.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
I would say so. I think the maximum amount of money you can ask in the application for your salary, it's 150,000 for the 3 years. 150,000 for 3 years.
150,000.
Yeah, but of course we are not gonna get that kind of money.
No, I mean it's like this is a maximum. This is a limit. So
this is the limit that you can ask.
Okay.
I asked for
Okay.
that kind of money. They grant me the grant, but I'm not gonna get that into my salary. It's kind
Sure.
of the grant pays KIT and KIT pays me.
Yeah, sure. Because, for example, if in Switzerland this kind of salaries, it's like this is a normal thing, you know, because it's very expensive. But for example, in Spain, it will be very expensive. So
Yeah.
it depends on the place. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Not
Okay.
the difference is not too much, maybe 100, 200 euros, but it's around 1,500 euros per month. The salary,
Okay. Okay.
something like that, I would say.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Mm,
Thank
all
you.
right. Nah, no problem.